But here we are with Vanderbilt and the Commodores, Craig Smoak.
Yeah, just timed it perfectly to go right into vacation. Had this planned all along. Never once accidentally skipped it during the show. Never once put it to the side for days on end, only to return to it randomly. This was all by design to end up right as I take vacation, finishing this entire list up. And this is where we're going to finish. So if we didn't get to a program, then we're just probably not going to get to a program. But we covered the Power Four. And here is the final team, the Vanderbilt Commodores. Again, this is something that, Lord willing, next year can do something along these lines. I'll polish this segment up a little bit, but that's a solid graphic. I like that graphic. I think black and gold, old gold, always looks really sharp. It's kind of hard to screw that up. But, yeah, I think it's a nice, respectable, good-looking schedule. So Vanderbilt's, obviously a story that is unlike what we've really been talking about with Vanderbilt in years past. They're a team that's expected to be competitive. They're a team that, if you listen to their starting quarterback, they expect to contend and, hell, win the SEC. Diego Pavia has shot a lot of life into them. And so last year, pretty much perennially picked the last team in the conference. They actually finished ahead of Mississippi State, Kentucky, Auburn, and Oklahoma.
Damn.
By finishing 7-6 overall. And 3-5 in the SEC, and that 3-5, of course, included the massive win over number one at the time, Alabama. That was after they had lost 2 games, including to Georgia State. And they turned around, they beat Bama, they beat Auburn at their place, beat Kentucky at their place, beat Georgia Tech to close the year, but still had a handful of losses in the SEC. So trying to improve upon 7-6, and that Georgia Tech game was the Birmingham Bowl, for what it's worth. So that's how their season ended, was on a win. And it's always interesting when you get a 6-6 team into a bowl game. You're excited, but you're like, damn, if we lose this thing, we finish under 500. And it just looks a lot different than finishing 7-6. So they won that game, finished 7-6. Now what to expect with Vanderbilt. Here is their schedule. August 30th, Saturday. All Saturday games for Vanderbilt this season as well. So Saturday, August 30th, Charleston Southern at home, SEC ESPN Plus network broadcast already announced as a 6 o'clock kickoff. Then Saturday, September the 6th, on the road against Virginia Tech in a little SEC ACC non-con action. That'll be on the ACC network, already announced as an evening game as well. And they have one of these schedules where they don't have the back end SEC special. They have their non-conference games all pretty much right at the beginning, with one exception, and that is South Carolina on the road in week 3. So they'll open SEC play against the Gamecocks on the road on September the 13th before returning to their non-con to close that out the next 2 weeks. September the 20th at home against Georgia State. September 27th at home against Utah State. And judging by this, they've got 2 games that might be on broadcast television. That South Carolina game, I could see where that will, because it's earlier in the year. That Georgia State game, I'm going to assume probably not, but I don't know the schedule by hand. But ESPN Plus, SEC Network, ACC Network, SEC Network. It's just the world we live in nowadays. And they still don't have a break. They get another game into the month of October before they finally do get their break. And right leading into that will be the final of 6 consecutive games to start the season, as they will go back to SEC play now and take on Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So a lot to digest there. Mm-hmm. Charleston Southern at home, at Virginia Tech, at South Carolina, Georgia State at home, Utah State at home, at Alabama, and then they get into a bye week.
Now, I will say this, as they were one of FSU's 2 wins last year, Charleston Southern is the worst football team I've ever seen in my life. They were awful.
You would take them over who's the
Kennesaw State?
Kennesaw State?
Yeah.
Is it Kent State? No, who's the team that we've talked about as just the absolute?
Kennesaw State.
Okay.
Yeah. No, right. Charleston Southern is also an FCS team. Kennesaw State's an FBS team.
Yeah.
It almost felt like FSU should have given them more money for how bad they were. Just
an ass whooping fee.
I know that we already paid you $750,000 or $1 million to come here and do this, but here's another $1 million just because this is the lowest that FSU's ever been, and you still somehow got your ass whipped by them. Like, here's another $1 million. Thanks for, the self-esteem
You don't
boost.
have to rub it in. They feel bad enough as it
I
is.
know.
Some
So-
random Charleston Southern fans watching this just out of the blue today, and he's
First
like,
time.
"The hell did I do?"
Yeah,
We'll
it's
never
just-
watch this
but-
channel again.
Sorry. We'll just call him Glenn. Sorry, Glenn, the Charleston Southern fan. Virginia Tech, I saw ESPN list Virginia Tech as the 28th team out of 32 who could possibly make the college football playoff, due in large part to their schedule, but I'm not buying it just yet.
Our boy Chadwell was at Charleston Southern, wasn't he?
Who?
That's Coastal Carolina.
Coastal
No,
Carolina.
he was the head coach there.
Well,
I mean,
probably, yeah. Well, I mean,
back before Coastal Carolina.
That's a long time ago because
okay.
they forgot about him completely. At South Carolina is going to be tough. They lost to Georgia State last year, so you can't just put that one away. Utah State has A&M and Vanderbilt on their schedule as SEC teams, and then that game on October 4th at Bama is going to be more fired up than the Bama crowd's been for a Vanderbilt game ever. Ever.
That's kind of like they can't wait to go out and turn the grill on with that one.
But here's the thing: it could blow up in their face because that whole week they could be like, "We could Vandy again," and then it just
I don't know.
they've cared too much,
and it depends on what Pavia's doing and what he says between now and then, which he's already kind of discussed what they're going to do.
Yeah, so we veered off into Jamie Chadwell. He was at Charleston Southern on a couple of different occasions. I haven't followed his career that closely to remember all of that. But when did he become y'all's boy? Just in admiration.
He's been on a couple times, but I'm the biggest Jamie Chadwell advocate there is.
Yeah,
and I hate that he's.
I think we're going to get him on next week, though. I think we're going to get him.
great.
Yeah, I like the guy. I know that a lot of people don't like Liberty for whatever reasons. I get it. Some of them are good or bad. But I always have liked him. But we'll go back to Van.
I like him, but yeah, I think he deserves a better job.
All right, so back to the schedule. After the bye week against Alabama, the last time we saw them, Vanderbilt back on October the 18th, home against LSU, and then the following week, home against Missouri. Then on November the 1st, back on the road, going to Austin for an 11 a.m. kick against the Texas Longhorns. Then November the 8th, back home. Third home game in their last 4 weeks of conference play, and they got another home game following this, but they will be on November the 8th. They're in Nashville against the Auburn Tigers, and then they get into their second bye week, but they will be back at home again, as I mentioned. So I'll get to those last two games, but the second stint, LSU at home, Missouri at home, Texas on the road, and Auburn at home. So better take advantage of being at home because that's a 3 out of 4 stretch right there where you could definitely do some damage or you can have some damage done to you.
Yeah, absolutely. But, when I hear Pavia talking about how they believe this season to be better, look, they've got some tough games on this schedule, but they also have some really winnable ones. And if you can steal one from an alpha dog like you did last year, then who knows?
I think this is one of those schedules. They're going to start off like 4-1, and then it's going to be like biting your fingernails to see if they win two more games in SEC play.
A lot of it's
getting down to like
Kentucky,
as I'll get to here in a second. To win number 6 or something because Charleston Southern win at Vatech. I mean,
who knows?
Who knows? At South Carolina. So maybe they lose a couple early games, but I could also see them just dropping maybe that South Carolina game and feeling really good heading into full-on SEC play. But after they get back from the second bye week, 2 games remaining, November 22nd, Kentucky at home, and then to close things on out, a little in-state action as they will be in Knoxville against the Tennessee Volunteers on November the 29th. So Kentucky and Tennessee, some close nemesis. Is it nemesis? What is
Nemesis? Nemesis.
Nemesi?
No.
Some close.
I believe it's nemesis.
Nemesis. Some close
nemesis.
Nemesis there with Kentucky and Tennessee.
Is that an apostrophe at the end of the S on nemesis?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Who do you think their common rivals are in college football in the history of the program?
Well, Tennessee's
one,
obviously.
Georgia, Kentucky. They don't have Georgia on this schedule.
Because I don't think Georgia probably considers them one of their first few rivals.
No, it's not what Georgia considers. It's like what listed under the rivalries.
It kind of is. I mean, it kind of has to cut both ways. But I know there's the examples of all the Texas schools except for A&M and Texas. Texas claims none of them, even though they all claim them as like their number one, basically. Not exactly, but pretty close.
Georgia, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia Tech, dormant, and then for the longest time, Sewanee was one of their big-time opponents. They've won 14 conference.
University of the South, right?
Yeah. 14 conference championships, but the last one was when they were a part of the Southern Conference, and that was back in the 20s and 30s. It's just been a tough run for them. They've had some success, but it's been a tough run.
Well, it's looking up now. I mean, this is about as much as they've been talked about during an off season as I can recall, maybe ever. And maybe there's some years where I just wasn't as locked in or whatnot, but definitely feels like there's a different tune because of that quarterback. And when I think of their rivals, granted, I don't go deep into Vanderbilt history, so I'm sure if you live that life, then you know a lot different. But from the outside looking in, the only one I can really think of that registers for me is Tennessee. But I'm sure there's some other history there that's just if that's your wheelhouse, you know that. But outside looking in, Tennessee. So that's how they will close things is with Tennessee there at the very end of this schedule. So as far as the teams they do not play, no Alabama on the excuse me, sorry, I didn't. I'm looking at it backwards. No Arkansas. I'd marked off who they do play, and I was reading that. They don't play Arkansas. They don't play Florida. They don't play Georgia. They don't play Mississippi State. They don't play Oklahoma. They don't play Ole Miss, and they don't play Texas A&M. So those are the teams that they will only see in the SEC championship game if it were to come to that possibility. But outside of that, but they still get Alabama and LSU and Texas and Tennessee and South Carolina, who's rolling in pretty hot. So it's like all these schedules. You get a handful of the good ones, and then you have a couple of the kind of in the middles or the lower ones, and then there's a couple, 2 or 3 that you won't play out of that Bama, Georgia, Texas kind of contingent of teams there at the top.
If you were to flip it Alabama or Texas and it's a Mississippi State or Arkansas, then that looks like a much more manageable, but you can't. And then they also could have the ones that they skip, the Georgias, et cetera. It could be a murderer's row, especially for a program. But that was a fun story. It really, really was. I didn't even know much about him, Pavia, until that Alabama game. I'm like, oh, damn.
I know about him because he was lighting up box scores previously when he was out in New Mexico and going over the box scores every week and just keeping up with that for awards stuff. I always kept looking at this Pavia. I was like, who the hell is this guy? And then watched him eventually. And then when he got to the portal, I was not at all surprised because I was like, yeah, that dude can play. And then sure enough, everybody saw that by the end of last year. Yeah.
I actually, last year I knew about him because of, looking at box scores and all that. And then when FSU needed a transfer quarterback, I'm reading about everybody who's in the portal. And Pavia was the one I actually wanted them to get, but I knew that it wasn't sexy enough for him. And as soon as they
were wrong about that because I think he was way sexier than what they.
They would have won 3 games.
I mean,
no, they would have won 5.
Honestly, he probably would have willed them to 5. I mean, that's the kind of dude he is.
Yeah. That's what I was like. Well, no, this is the guy they need. They need somebody with gumption. And DJU just never did it for me. And then as soon as they got down the road with Cam Ward and it wasn't going to happen, I was like, this is about to end up bad.
By the way, who took a knee at the end of the game last night in that preseason game? Did you see it was DJ?
No, I didn't.
I think he actually took a knee at the end of that preseason game.
Good for him.
He was a part of a winning team.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for he hadn't been able to do that in a while. So good for him on being able to kneel it out in a win. But there's Vanderbilt, the end of the road for us in these schedules. All of the 4 power conferences we rolled through. And that's where we're going to leave it because I'm going on vacation.
Yeah.
So it's a nice time to break it up and great timing. Again, planned right from the start. We're going to take 6 random days of not doing it at all. And then we're going to do it 15 days in a row and it's going to end perfectly. And you know what? It did end perfectly.
It did.
And we're ending with the team that is as interesting as, there's a lot of interesting news and notes out there, but Vanderbilt really truly is a very curious, interesting, and potentially exciting team. And let me check their over-under win totals. Like, if you're going off those wins right now, do you have any sort of inclination as to what you'd expect? I mean, bowl game.
I would say the over-under
bowl
6.5,
game,
isn't it? It'd probably be.
Yeah, I think they could be 7-5 if they steal.
I bet it's lower than
if they steal one, but they're a 6-6 team.
They are listed last I
4.5.
look at 4. You let me finish. Yes, at 4.5.
Well, I mean, I was just guessing.
4.5 wins for Vanderbilt. So I think I'd feel pretty good about going the over there. But then again, I'm sure there's party going, well, why is it so low? What do they know that I don't know, kind of thing. But I'll default to Diego Pavia and think they can get 5 wins.
Is Clark Lee